Hello and welcome to Bet99's The Parleh Show. It is Tuesday. I'm Rob Conway in Toronto, and we got a lot to talk about today. We got some NFL talk with some running backs making some signings. We have the Blue Jays, didn't play yesterday, but worked out for them with a couple of losses for teams that are right ahead and right behind them, as well as maybe we'll talk a little bit of soccer with Sarah Ferrari a little bit later. But joining me now in studio is Sean McCormick, and joining us from Ottawa is our co-host Matthew Barnaby. Matt, how are you?
I'm great, man. I'm a lot better than I was yesterday during the show. I've recovered from the weekend, from your humiliation, and pretty happy the way things turned out for the New York Jets yesterday. So it's a great, great day.
Certainly, you were angling for Dalvin Cook for quite some time, and you managed to land him, it seems anyway, and the Jets, everyone... they're on them right now. I mean, let's be honest. Everyone thinks the Jets are a Super Bowl legit contender, which, in the conference that they're in the division that they're in, it's a lot, considering the most important player on that team has never thrown a pass in this jersey. But, Barney, another piece gets added with Breece Hall. How excited are you in Jetsville, Jetsland, whatever you call the land of Jets fans?
Well, it's not called Jetsville. It's not called Jetsland. It's just gangrene, man. Gangrene,
Okay.
Jets. We are going to win the AFC East.
All right.
It's not even close now. I don't care, Buffalo Bills fans out there. It's going to be a long, long, long winter for my buddy Fred. He's going to lose a tattoo. He's going to have lunch in Buffalo at the most famous spot, Chef's, with a blow-up doll. We have a way better defense than the Buffalo Bills. The defensive line is incredible. The best secondary, led by Sauce Gardner. And we have weapons upon weapons. When you start with Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall is back in practice today, who's an absolute stud and still running back one. Now we had Dalvin Cook. We had a Ferrari in the backfield, and we added a Porsche just because we could. We are the best team in the AFC East. We are better than the Buffalo Bills. And when you said we are going 0-6 in the first 6, this team will be at least 11-6 now. Over 9.5 wins is a lock. Great day.
Yeah,
Sean?
I like the over 9.5 wins. We've talked about it a bit before, Barney. I think that's I wouldn't say low for this team, but I think the 11 is very realistic for I think the New York Jets. I like this move for the Jets too. I like getting Cook. I think Hall's knee. You got to have an insurance policy, I think. But are you a bit concerned about the history of Dalvin Cook's shoulder? I mean, he's separated his shoulder a few times in the last couple of years, had surgery in February. Obviously, we're unsure if he's going to be ready for week 1. It seems as though Hall will be ready for week 1, but are you worried about both their injury histories, or at least like how they're going to be entering the season?
Not at all. Not at all. Because I don't know if this is Dalvin Cook's first surgery on it. Here's what I'll tell you. I had a separation dislocation of my shoulder when I was 18. I had it done with bad technology probably back then, or less than better than we have now. I've fought probably 300 times since that day, and I've never had a problem with my right shoulder. Now, it hurts now that I'm 50 years old when it rains, but I never, ever had a problem with my right shoulder. I've had problems with my left, but once you get it fixed and you rehab, it is fine. I'm watching clips of Breece Hall cut today at practice. No, I mean, could it happen again? Of course, but I have no doubt that these two are just going to be 1A and 1B, and they are completely different runners. This is an incredible offense now. The only question mark for this whole team is the offensive line, because the defense it's literally top 3 in the league. It could be number 1. And the offense, if their offensive line does play really well, a couple guys will come back, could be a top 5 offense in the NFL. So I love this team. It's the most excited I've ever been to be a Jets fan.
I find that I'm not against the Cook signing, Barney, and we only got a couple minutes here. We can talk more about it on the other side, but yeah. I'm not against the Cook signing, but It seems to me just a little bit that this might have been a decision that is to appease Aaron Rodgers and the $35 million he gave you to spend.
Well, of course.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he gave up $35 million and said, "Let's go spend some money and make our team even better." We couldn't have afforded Dalvin Cook a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're going to appease the guy that gave up $35 million and say, "Hey, where do you want to spend this money?" And on the offensive side of the ball, I'd be still surprised if they don't add come trade deadline, because there's always big names and they have the cap space to be able to do it. So yes, it is to appease, but you have a guy that last year had 1,173 rushing yards and 296 catching yards. And that was a down year.
It was.
That was a down year.
It was.
And you're adding Breece Hall, who barely played last year.
Yeah.
This is the best running back duo in the league and the best the New York Jets have ever had.
All right. I mean, look, we'll talk about it a bit more on the other side because we have other guys to talk about. Ezekiel Elliott, Anthony Richardson news. But yeah, look, the backfield here is I know, Barney, you're excited. It's a bit of a question mark, but it is a good question mark. Like I would be pretty excited about that type of a question mark, considering Breece Hall and his upside, and Dalvin Cook just needs to be okay, and it's been a pretty solid addition to that team, not to mention adding one of the best quarterbacks in Aaron Rodgers, and so on, and so on, and so on. We'll get more into it as well as Ezekiel Elliott and Anthony Richardson on the other side of the break as well. Sarah Perraro will be joining us later to talk a little bit of Women's World Cup and some other news going on in the soccer world. All right, welcome back to Bet99's The Parleh Show. Rob Conway in studio with Sean McCormick, and joining us in Ottawa, co-host Matthew Barnaby, and excited Matthew Barnaby, although you're wearing a hoodie. And is that because I saw on your Instagram you just got off the Peloton for the first time in about probably 2 months?
Yeah, after the weekend we had, I thought it was much needed to sweat out all the food that we ate.
Yeah, the food
this weekend. So yes, it's going to be a double session today. I'm going to be doing double sessions till I see you this weekend in Toronto.
Well, you got to look pretty for the King's Plate, right?
Oh,
very important.
Little Sunday horse racing, nice.
I'm excited. I have never been, and I obviously it makes sense that it's the King's Plate, not the Queen's Plate.
Right.
I never knew that it changed, but that's no. I'm very excited to go.
Because in your lifetime it hadn't changed because the Queen was the Queen forever.
But yes, I'm saying I didn't know they'd change it with that, but it totally makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. And,
it is.
I'm just hoping we don't go last time because we like to bet, and last time I went with the horse guru. We went 0 for 10 in the races, and I left with no money.
Not true. Not true. We didn't go 0 for 10.
Oh.
We went 0 for 9. And in the last race, Barney bet every horse, so he cashed one ticket.
You can't lose that way.
Can't lose that way. You cashed something. I'm sure the favorite won that one too. Yeah, you still lost.
Still lose.
You still lost. But it was
you bet several minus 1,000 favorites.
It's
not a good strategy.
And I think the favorite won on that one.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely did not you didn't profit from that race, but you cashed a ticket, and that's all that matters. No, we're going to destroy the King's Plate.
Love it.
We're going to destroy the King's Plate this weekend, and we'll have lots of stories for next weekend. But we were going to – Sean wanted to lead the show with Ezekiel Elliott just to spite you.
Yeah, pretty much.
And Dalvin Cook and the excitement. But we will get into Ezekiel Elliott signing with the Patriots. Going to be an interesting atmosphere for him. It's not quite going to be Jerry Jones. It's going to be a different deal here, obviously with Bill Belichick and the responsibility to kind of follow in line with the Patriot way. Barney, you first. What are your thoughts here on this acquisition? Obviously, I think there's a lot there still, possibly, and I think for a team like the Patriots, there's not a lot to lose because they're probably the worst team in this division. But there's also an opportunity that maybe has a breakout year.
Yeah, first of all, Sean hasn't known me as long as you. You could ask me about what the weather was outside or ask me anything, and I was coming to Dalvin Cook and the Jets. So that's
lesson learned.
I'm
lesson learned.
The tables on that every single time. As for Zeke, I didn't want him at all in New York. I think his best days are behind him. Last year, we had 876 yards and 12 TDs, but fumbles, holding on to the ball has been a lot of trouble. And the way that he runs is really, really hard. Now, he's a great pass blocker, and I think it's a very good signing to be the number 2 guy behind Ramondre Stevenson. So I think it's a good ad for them. I think his base is $4 million. He can get up to $6 million. He can try to revive and maybe hit the market again next year after the 1-year deal. Nothing I wanted in New York, but for a team that desperately needed a number 2 running back, it's a good fit. And I think a guy like Bill Belichick's much coveted a guy like Zeke Elliott. I think he fits really well into his system. So it's a good signing for them, but they are definitely finishing 4th in the AFC East.
Sean, what does this do for you? You know, you're a fantasy guy, right?
Yeah.
What does this do for Stevenson, and what does it do for Breece Hall or Dalvin Cook, whoever you consider to be one or one? Like, how does that value affect where you're looking at drafting guys? Because I find this year, at least when it comes to a fantasy perspective, guys like Justin Jefferson are going to go before a lot of running backs. Like first round for sure, but I mean maybe 2, 1, who knows?
Yeah, so last week I was looking at a lot of these guys later in rounds, like 9, 10, and looking at them as extreme values because there's no way that they weren't going to sign somewhere at some point and help a team, in some way. Like Barney said, 12 touchdowns for Zeke last year. That's a huge reason why they brought him into New England, was because, like Barney said, the depth. Behind Ramondre Stevenson, who had a hell of a season last year, they only had Ty Montgomery, who barely is a running back, oft injured as well, and Pierre Strong, who is unproven in the NFL. So to bring him in really helps around the goal line. Again, Zeke with 12 touchdowns last year, scored on 47% of his chances within the 5-yard line, whereas Ramondre only scored on 23% of his chances inside the 5. So again, Ramondre's a bit smaller than Zeke. Zeke obviously a thick human being, and couldn't agree more. I think his past antics are behind him, I think. And Zeke will eat in New England, I think. It's just I don't know what to expect as far as like timeshares and things. I think Ramondre and Breece Hall should get the majority of the work, but we've seen in the NFL where just sometimes veterans get that workload. And like, I don't know whether you think that's right or not, Barney. Like,
Belichick doesn't care, right?
No,
not that anyone cares about fantasy, but
right?
he loves to just go with the 2-headed back. And if you have fumble troubles like Ezekiel Elliott does, he'll be a fixture on the bench pretty fast, Barn?
Absolutely. I mean, he's going to be a goal line guy. I mean, he's a power runner, and all 4 of them are different. I mean, they bring different elements there. If we speak about fantasy on that side of it, you have to be a little cautious where you might take Hall. Now, he's coming off an injury. We know that. I think he plays in week 1, but this is giving him a little less of a load, and it just gives him a different balance of attack, because the way that he runs and the way that Dalvin Cook runs are completely different. So I'd be a little bit more cautious in fantasy at taking these guys earlier than maybe than we thought, because they are going to split the load. But I don't see any way that Dalvin Cook gets more carries than a guy like Breece Hall if he is healthy.
You're just taking all Jets on your team anyway. You're going to have Rodgers, Hall, Garrett Wilson.
Hey, why not? We're winning the Super Bowl. Hey, give me Sauce Gardner, give me Reed, give me them all. Give me them all.
Who's the kicker?
Yeah.
Who's the kicker?
Greg Zuerlein.
It was Greg the Leg. Yeah.
Greg the Leg.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, you're just going to be the Barney's Jets. That's your team name.
I might have to do it.
Yeah. At least in one league. I know you're a multiple league guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe one league you just go pretty much as many Jets as you possibly can. Whatever best Jets available, when your turn comes up, you have to select them. That's the way to go.
I'll be taking Bam Knight, and he's going to be cut. Someone's going to get a good running back in Bam Knight if they cut him.
All right. Interesting. What do you think? We got a little question here from Sean. The over-under on rushing yards here for Elliott. This is Sean saying this. Was this official?
This is not official.
Oh, it's not official because he just signed to it. It's not available yet. 400 yards, Barney. What do you like?
Oh, I'll take the over. I'll take the over.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Tony Pollard was great last year, and obviously dealt with some injuries as well. But I see him getting over 400 yards. Yeah.
It just depends on volume, right? I mean, if you're only expecting him to get a lot of the goal line work, is he going to see 150 carries? He's definitely not going to see 200 like he's seen the past few years. So it depends on volume. But again, 400 isn't a lot, and I think that's around what I would expect him to get, somewhere in that range. Again, especially you see it all the time. Running backs get hurt, and that's, again, why I think you'll see some dominoes fall next. Kareem Hunt will get signed. Leonard Fournette will get signed. You can't just have these veteran experienced running backs, a lot of them with playoff experience, Super Bowl experience. You can't just leave them hanging for too long, and eventually the league will start to value these guys.
Yeah, 90 seconds left, Barn, but Anthony Richardson, he's named the Week 1 starter, and I was just wondering, this just came to my head now, your thoughts. Would you rather be the Colts with Richardson and all that upside and everything, or Love in Green Bay, which has a little bit more experience just from being around the league for the 3 years he's been around the league, or 2 years?
Well, you know what? It's hard to play in this. I'd rather be Love. I mean, without a doubt. Anthony Richardson wasn't good last game at all. I mean, he looked horrible. But listen, Peyton Manning was awful in his first year, and just the amount of interceptions that he gave up. It's the hardest position in the hardest league to transform from college into the NFL. But I'd much rather be Jordan Love, sitting for a few years, watching, getting reps in practice, and learning from one of the best in Aaron Rodgers, as opposed to just throwing him into the fire, right? I think both will struggle, but I think Jordan Love will be much, much better. But the upside on Anthony Richardson is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, sure is. It'll be interesting to see, like you say, even a guy like Peyton Manning, in my opinion, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I always had him over Brady, but he can't anymore. 7 Super Bowls, forget it. That's a conversation for another day. But there's no way that's not Tom Brady. Having said that, he struggles, like you said. I think it was 23. You might have said 23 interceptions. It is a tough league to come right out of the gate and be good in. But we're going to talk a little Blue Jays on the other side. If you were a fan of the Jays last night, you were happy to see what happened to Seattle and Houston. But not if you're a fan of the Parleh, and we'll get into that next on Bet99's The Parleh Show. All right, welcome back to Bet99's The Parleh Show. Rob Conway alongside Sean McCormick and Matthew Barnaby in Ottawa. Barney, we're going to throw a little clip here. I don't know if you've seen it yet. Probably haven't. There's a little team down in Georgia, right? It is in Georgia.
Yeah,
Savannah Bananas. And, let's fire it up.
Cranks that one to center. Meadows hardly has to move. In fact, he backflips and makes the catch. Stupendous play from the doctor. That is what you typically see for the trick play for the doctor there in center field. And Meadows timing that ball up perfectly and making a beautiful backflip catch to end the top of the second.
Man, that guy needed to take a breath in the middle of that call. Oh, my goodness. But listen, they're obviously a gimmicky team, gimmicky thing that's going on, but they are a lot of fun. And I don't have a ton of context to what's going on in Savannah Banana Land. But
sort of like the Harlem Globetrotters-ish of
right. But are they part of an
baseball.
Official league?
They used to be, but now they're not. It's like an exhibition. And they just travel around and put on like similar shows. I mean, the games are not like as fixed as the Globe. Like they do lose games and stuff, and they score runs differently, and they have different rules. And
well, I saw the one time where the guy fouled out and the fan caught the ball, and that was the game. That's an out. If the fan catches the ball, it's an out, which is fun. I mean, look, it's fun if it's just an exhibition game. Obviously, it has to be when you're talking about some. I've seen some of the stuff that they do where there's like all of them are in the infield dancing while they're
the
throwing
umps get
pitches
involved
and stuff.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
it's an interesting.
But Barney, would you rather go to something like that? Or would you rather go to, other than your Jets, a preseason game?
They are TikTok sensation. That's where I know them from because they're all over TikTok. Listen, they're fun. I'm sure it's not something that I want to go to, but I also don't want to go, excuse me, I don't want to go to the Harlem Globetrotters unless I was 12 years old. Mm-hmm. So neither of those interest me. I'll go to the preseason game and spend the $17 a beer.
I don't know. I'd rather go to the Globetrotters or the Bananas, I think.
Yeah, just to see something fun. Unless it was like, again, you're maybe seeing somebody like a Breece Hall or a Connor Bedard or like somebody that, you'll see for the first time. And somebody who's like a rookie that like is going to have a fantastic career. I'm just not interested when it doesn't matter. Obviously, this doesn't matter either, but it's more entertaining to me. You just don't know what you're going to see out of it. I don't know.
The backflip catch was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like the ball was almost in the glove when he did it. He should have flipped into the ball. That would have been cooler.
Well, I can't do it, so it doesn't matter.
No, I know.
Oh.
Like right now. Wait, let's see one. Yeah, it's almost in the
Yeah,
glove.
it's
almost in the
That's
glove.
still
No.
impressive.
You're just trying to
Still
take.
impressive.
You're taking it away from him.
Okay, listen. I've played in a lot of beer leagues. Most guys can't make that catch standing still. They certainly don't make that catch. They can't do a backflip. So doing both at
Most
the same
guys
time.
aren't standing still when they're playing
exactly.
beer league. Yeah,
exactly.
That'll
So
stagger to them.
good on you, Savannah Bananas. Just wanted to have a quick chat about them, and yeah, I think they're fun and they're interesting. But last night. All right, Barney, we had a controversial 1-0 win called by one Justin Pooney by Manchester United. We're going to get into that in the next segment because the goaltender apparently clotheslined the Wolverhampton player and should have been a penalty kick. Didn't get it, 1-0 the final. We hit the plus 650 before happy hour.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of teams from the state of Texas, including a Cy Young winner and a guy who could win a Cy Young. And the Miami Marlins, one of the worst offenses in baseball, took down Framber Valdez and your Houston Astros to cost us plus 1,800. But it was great news for the Toronto Blue Jays, Barney.
Yeah, great news for the Jays, bad news for us.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Awesome that Justin pulled that out of the hat before happy hour. Sure, he was at happy hour when he texted us that, but yeah, rough night. Let's get it tonight. We'll get back to the grind.
Well, that's all we can do. But Sean, we had an interesting conclusion to the Kansas City Royals Seattle game. Seattle down 5-0.
Yeah.
And rally back, get the lead in the top of the ninth, and then the Royals play a little small ball and bunt their way to a victory to push the Mariners another half game back from the Blue Jays.
Yeah, a little suicide squeeze. I even had it in the rundown after they came back. I had it typed up nice and late last night. I was like, oh, Blue Jays only one game out. I'm like, oh, man, or one game up, sorry. And now they wake up and find out the good news that they're two games up on the Mariners, and the Astros lost, which again bad for the parlay, good for the Jays, and it's another big series here for the Phillies. Yeah. The Phillies are a hot team right now. I mean, I think they've lost 2 in a row, but before that, they're one of the better teams after the All-Star break, and a hell of a lineup, and one of their best pitchers going tonight as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They get an easier schedule coming up, I think, with the Rockies, the Royals, maybe the Athletics mixed in there.
Yeah, the Nationals too, I think.
Nationals as well. But Barney, you look at the Jays and them trying to figure out where everyone kind of fits in after the deadline, and the addition of Ryu and the addition of Manoah, and then, of course, the addition from the deadline of Hicks and Hennessy Cabrera and Paul DeJong, and the absence of Bo Bichette. And I feel like what they did with Manoah Barn was like a panic move to bring him back up. And then once Ryu was okay, they're like, actually, we really didn't want you up here in the first place. Now, I know they played 17 games in 17 days, and they needed maybe a 6-man rotation, but I don't think it was performance, Barney, that got him sent back down.
No, I think they had the plan. I think you talk about their schedule. I think that played into it, and they want to give him a little bit more time before they decide if he's going to be a part of this for the rest of the year. So, that's just – I don't think it was performance-based. I think it was just more timing than anything, and he's got to figure it out if they're going to have him be any part of the postseason. If they do make it, it's going to be a big series for the Jays. They're going against a really tough pitcher today and almost identical records. Kikuchi's been really, really good this year. I think he's 9-4. But it's going to be a tough series, a really tough series for a team that's been very inconsistent. You think that they're world beaters, and then you're like, oh my God, they can't get out of their own way and get a hit. So big series coming this week.
What are you looking for, Sean, from this team over the next 10 days? Like, it's when they went into Fenway and kind of, shut them down and look good and push them 5 games back, I kind of felt like that wrapped it up. Obviously, you don't expect the Mariners to go on an 8-game winning streak. I understand that. And that's always possible. But they're not in a locked position. We talked a little bit yesterday about how I think it was you and Justin both don't have them making the playoffs. I'm not sure. But I can't remember exactly. But regardless, I know Justin didn't.
Yeah, Justin didn't.
What are you looking for here over the next, like I say, 10 days?
Yeah, again, I always stress with this team, it's consistency. It's just I want to see more out of somebody like Paul DeJong and somebody who
he's like 3 for 40 or something.
Yeah,
like that
I mean, again, you brought him in for the defense, but I mean, he should be hitting better than what he is, and now you're just sort of tinkering. I do think that they have a leg up on the Mariners for the last wild card spot. Obviously, 2 games is not a lot, but I think they have a easier schedule. I think they have the better team, obviously the better bullpen, the better pitching staff right now as well. It's just finding the right lineup to get you the runs that you need. Because again, this team struggles with runners in scoring position. And now you just want to figure out, do you want De Jong in there? Do you want Bijou in there? Do you want Espinal in there? Who are you going to DH? Again, I was super surprised when they brought Springer down to the 5 hole, and then the 4. Now he's the cleanup guy, and then they put him second on occasional days as well. It's just a lot of tinkering, and you got to be consistent and figure out what you want, and those are the next steps for me. It's just getting the consistency out of these guys on a daily basis and figuring out who your guys are if you're going to make this stretch run down to the playoffs.
Yeah, we talked about Barney, who was on the mound, and Wheeler and Kikuchi. Right now, Bet99, you can get the Jays at plus money, plus 100. Over-under's at 7.5, which is so low to me. But how are you feeling about tonight's game? Where are your leans?
I'm leaning the Phillies, and I'm leaning the over. I think on the rundown we had it at 8, and it was going under, so now it's at 7.5. I like the over in the game, but I'm leaning Phillies in this one, boys.
Yeah, eh?
I agree. I agree. I mean, Zach Wheeler's a hell of a pitcher. Like I said, 9-5 on the season, 3.74 ERA. His underlying numbers are even better. Strikes out a bunch of guys, 10K per 9 on the season. He's one of those pitchers that throws a fastball and a slider and a sweeper, and those 2 pitches, the slider and the sweeper, are pitches that the Jays just can't seem to hit. Or at least, they swing at stuff that's way outside the zone. So I have the same leans as you, Barney, and yeah, 7.5 is just really low. I know Kikuchi's been pitching well lately. Phillies ranked 12th in average and 12th in OPS against the lefties. So, yeah, I don't want to do it, but slight lean.
Emotional hedge.
Yeah, it won't make the parlay
keep it
for
off
me.
the parlay,
it won't make
Sean,
the parlay
right?
parlay
Let's
for
just
me.
keep
But
it off the parlay.
I do think I'm with you there, Barney, on those two picks.
I don't know. Kikuchi to me, he's been real good.
Real good.
And I know Wheeler's he's a solid pitcher, but just it's a big game for the Jays. It is a big game as well for the Phillies. They are 2.5 games up on the last wild card spot, but.
Yeah, I mean, they got Schwarber, Castellanos, one of the best hitters against lefties in the league. Turner, who's not having a great year. Harper. I mean, just this lineup again you're not facing the Cleveland Guardians, and again, Kikuchi's been great lately. Again, just 4 earned runs in his last 29 innings. Right, that's fantastic. But you're facing a hell of a lineup. And again, slight lean. I don't want to count out the Jays, but slight lean to the Phillies.
You're counting out the Jays. Both of you are counting out the Jays. I don't want to count them out, but I'm betting against them and the over, and they're going to smash Kikuchi. It's basically what you said. So I don't really know where the confusion is here. Yeah. So okay, I like it. Are we counting out? Speaking of which, the Red Sox, Yankees, Angels, and Guardians. Is it just the Mariners and Blue Jays now, Sean?
Yeah. I'm really disappointed in the Yankees being at the bottom of the AL East. I think they're done. We basically read the eulogy for the Angels last week.
Yeah.
So I don't like either of those teams. And I don't know. I think Aaron Boone might need to get canned. Something needs to happen for the Yankees.
I agree. I think that.
I mean, they have the payroll, but
they have the payroll. They added some players in guys like Rodon. Just hasn't worked out. I know he's been hurt the whole time, but they gave all that money to Judge. They're all excited in New York that he ended up signing and not going to San Fran or where else he was reported to go to. And this has been down here. Now, hey, look, it happens to everybody. They'll see if they're healthier. Severino's been terrible and hurt coming into the year.
Herman's
out. Exactly. So we'll see about where all that goes for them. But Barney and Sean, you guys are going to step aside, and I'm going to bring Sarah Pararia in next as we're going to break down some of the news in the world of soccer after this. All right, welcome back to Bet99's The Parleh Show, and joining me in studio now, Sarah Pararia, as we are going to chat a little bit of soccer news, and tons going on. Look, we have a big name heading to Saudi Arabia. We also have a VAR decision in the opening weekend of Premier League that we want to get into a little bit. Women's World Cup, your team.
Hey!
Looking good. As well as England playing Australia, which is a massive matchup in the other semifinal. And maybe a little report of what's going on in this city with the coach of this city's national team in John Herdman. But we will start with Neymar and heading to Al-Hilal as PSG agrees to a $98.6 million deal. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's end of an era, obviously, in PSG already with Messi and now Neymar. Mbappe
Soon
seems
to be Mbappe.
he seems to be sticking around. We're not sure. Some people said what a waste of time for Neymar and what happened leaving Barca, and now he's going there. But Champions League final, I suppose. What are your thoughts on how that all went down?
Yeah, I think his career was wasted. He was going to be that guy after Messi and Ronaldo. He was really the third best player in the world at one point, and everyone thought he might even get to that level. And then he left Barcelona and went to PSG, and that was pretty much the end of his, great era. We saw him at Santos, we saw him at Barca thrive with Brazil, the national team, but once he went to PSG, it was just kind of like the simmering stopped, and it just kind of went downhill from there. Yeah, PSG went to a final, but they didn't win.
Yeah, that's right.
And Albert said it best, actually, off air, but he said, if you're going to PSG and you don't win a Champions League, that's a waste of time, because they've won the league so many times consecutively. It's not really as big of a deal, right?
Yeah, no one really cares about that league that much.
Yeah,
right?
well,
outside of France, right?
exactly.
Which is a huge soccer country and all of that other stuff. There's nothing to take away from that. But they are by far the best team in that league, and are the only representative really from that league that ever has a chance at Champions League, I would imagine. So now where he's heading, how has that changed some of the landscape in Saudi Arabia?
Listen, I don't know. Apparently he's been given a ton of perks. I don't know how true these are, but access to a private jet at any time of any day.
Do you need that when you're making the amount of money that they have?
He'll probably just fly back to Europe all the time when he has no practice to hang out with his friends.
I don't think he has a Jets pass. You know what I mean? I feel like they're okay for that. All right.
Well, he's also getting, obviously a mansion full of staff, just all the perks he needs, access to basically anything and everything. 500,000 is the number I'm hearing that he's going to get for every post that is about Al-Hilal on his social media. Do you know how I would just be?
Yeah, that's right. There's that's
I don't know
crazy.
if there's a cap, but sure, I think there would have to be. But there's so many little perks like this. So he's going to be, he already is taking care for the rest. His life is settled. His children's life, his grandchildren, right? But, I just feel like this is such a wasted career. He is so talented. And you can say all the things about, he's dramatic, sometimes on the pitch you don't like how he plays. But when it comes to just pure talent, Neymar was one of the most gifted players in our generation. I don't think people will disagree with me on that. I'm telling you, put all the drama aside. What he could do on the pitch was so gifted. I really do feel like it's bad, because I think he could have gone somewhere else still in Europe and, continued at least to play at the top flight. Now I'm not going to watch Neymar anymore until he plays with Brazil.
Yeah, that's right. And has he won a World Cup with Brazil?
No.
No, right? No. I didn't think so. They probably won a Copa though.
Yeah, he's won 2 Copas, I think.
So like you say, you haven't won at the highest level in the international soccer. You go to a place where you're trying to be something different and do something special, and win Champions League, you don't. Yeah, wasted career that might be a lot, but I don't disagree, right? When you have a player at that level and they're missing so many pieces to what we consider to be kind of like a legacy type player, it is what it is. But speaking of his former teammate in Inter Miami, the League's Cup going on, and it's the semifinals. So you seem...
Sorry, no, I wanted to fact check myself on that. Sorry, Neymar hasn't won a Copa America. He was the runner-up in 2021 when Argentina beat them at the Maracanã.
Yeah.
Wow. So he actually hasn't won with Brazil. He's won the Confederations Cup, which means next to nothing. But no Copa America and no World Cup. They have an Olympics.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
That's surprising to me
shocked.
too. I didn't even think to look. I'm assuming over the last 8-10 years they would have won a Copa somewhere.
Yeah, I think he was injured. I think that's what it was.
Oh, okay.
He
So
had a huge back
they won, but he wasn't playing.
Yeah.
I got you. All right. Speaking of Argentina, speaking of his former teammate, we got a lot of segues into Inter Miami and going to the semifinals of the League's Cup. Plus 120 right now, bet 99. Philadelphia Union plus 190. That's inside the distance. A draw is available at plus 280, so inside 90 minutes for them to move on. But what? We talked about it when he first was coming over. And I think, the first game he played, you picked him to anytime goal scorer, and it was plus 120 or something reasonable. It's down to minus 200 now. It's crazy how much of an immediate effect, that this man, look, he's the GOAT, but that it's amazing how much he's dominated this league right out of the gate.
5 matches, 5 wins, 8 goals with a PK as well, so maybe 9.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Even the match they had on Friday against Charlotte, Messi didn't get on the scoreboard there until I think around the 70th or something. But even then, he still got on it. They were up 3-0. Messi gets one, taps it in. This game, I think, is going to be a bit tricky. They're playing Philadelphia. They're playing at Subaru Park up here in the north. But I still don't really think that matters. Philly have a massive fan base. You know, they're going to come out. They're going to be gunning for Messi for sure. But we're talking about the best player in the world. Mm-hmm. And then you have alongside Sergio Busquets, of course, Jordi Alba, and all the other Inter Miami players that have really elevated under these 3. I don't know. I mean, how are you not expecting Inter Miami to win this game, especially that we know this is a semifinal? 2 more wins and they've won a Leagues Cup. Like that, they're gonna want this for sure, because especially with how they're last in the Eastern Conference in MLS. So obviously this is massive for them. That's going to be a whole different can of worms. They're gonna have to come back and crawl up that ladder after this tournament is over. But they just need 2 more wins. Like it's so hard for me to see anyone stopping Messi or Miami right now.
Not even Monterrey? Nashville, I'm not sure, but Monterrey, I mean, it's a good side.
Monterrey is going to be tough because like they're always the Mexican teams are a little bit, grittier, a bit more aggressive. They're not going to give, I don't want to say that like respect or grace to Messi that we've seen some teams kind of give him during these matches in Leagues Cup. It's almost like they're not going cleats up. Well, expect Monterrey to go cleats up. But one step at a time, get through Philly first and then see, because it's between Nashville and Monterrey on the other side. But I mean, it's really just incredible what this guy has done for this
Unbelievable.
team.
Minus 140 anytime.
Yeah.
Right,
No. What's Messi to score? Just at a
that was to score minus 140. That's anytime. There's a better chance, according to the book, that he scores than not score in a soccer game. It's crazy.
Incredible, right?
And plus 320 for him to be first or last to score. First is a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think there's a better chance for that. But I mean, it's wild what he's been able to do. Not that I thought that he wasn't going to be able to be as dominant, but to be so dominant right away, coming in mid-season on a team that wasn't very good. And like you said at one time, it's like beer league. It almost is. Those numbers are like beer league.
The way they're also
you always hear about Gretzky when he was 12 and scored like 400 points in minor league hockey. It's not that, but it's that, right?
Okay, I have a question for you, because you're not as big of a footy fan as some of us here, but I've had this question asked to me a lot since Messi has joined Inter Miami and everything they've done since. My friends have been saying, has he just made MLS though look like such a bad league? How do you feel as a more like neutral fan and not as a big footy fan that you have this guy come over to the last place team in the Eastern Conference and put every team he has played in his pocket, including a Mexican team as well?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think I've asked that to myself as well. Like, is this? It's great for MLS and exposure, but is it also like saying? Because the argument was that this league over the last decade has really gotten closer to what they are in Europe. Not the same level.
Yeah,
they couldn't probably play in a league, second or third league probably, a lot of these teams, but certainly maybe in England. But getting there and more respectable and getting good players to come over, not just players when they turn 40 and now you can come play here. Yeah. Good players at high level. But it is a good question. I would say we'll see how long it lasts.
Sure.
We'll see how long it lasts, because he comes over here. I think there's the awe to that. And some of the games, what was it, 4-4 in one game? Like, I mean, it's not like they're winning 7-0. He's scoring all the goals. So I think we'll see if this continues at this level throughout next season. Can they put it together for an extended period of time? Will the first of all, the
will
shine...
Will they be there, though, in a certain period? That's the thing. Messi's contract is only until 2025, but he has the Copa America coming up for Argentina. Like, that's the thing. I'm wondering, like, do they just have this stint and then they leave? And
if he comes over for 20 games and scores 40 goals and leaves, that's not good. That's not a good look.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. And it's
look.
It's not me trying to talk poorly about MLS, but I think the comparison to Europe is relax, calm down. The comparison that, okay, they're better than they were 10 years ago, sure, but that's still not where they need to be. I think is the biggest thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think the depth, is the key there too, right? He's playing at the same level as maybe a handful of people on the pitch, as opposed to 22 players. You know what I mean? So like there's a lot of space out there for him to be going up against players that aren't nearly good enough to be on the same field as him because the depth is not there. I think that's probably the biggest difference for him. And if you have, especially if you don't have depth in the right spot, if your back line stinks and he's coming at it, I mean, it's craziness, right? So we'll see. But I'm sure you're quite excited to know that the Spanish side scored in the 89th minute. Hell of a game, by the way.
Yeah.
Nothing till the 80th, and then a couple of back and forth goals in the 89th minute. Get it done.
We got to talk about Salma Paralluelo. She scored in the quarterfinals. She's now scored in the semifinals. 19 years old, Barcelona prodigy, comes into this team, maybe the best player on the pitch in 2 games now that I've seen. But yeah, it was amazing. They got scored on, like you mentioned, 88th minute, and they bounced back from that. That's really tough. But Spain has never made it to a World Cup final. They've always kind of been close, but never this far. It's so exciting to see. Just obviously, I'm a Spanish fan, but just for other like neutral fans to see a team that's never been there. So exciting. They look really good, and now they're going to go up against Australia or England.
What I think I'm most excited about is seeing the names like, Spain and England and Brazil. I mean, Brazil's been good for a while, but like these major soccer countries on the women's side, putting the time and investment into these teams, and now it's coming through to fruition. Because, yes, it's amazing to see Canada do really, really well. And it's amazing to see teams like Australia doing really, really well. But they're not soccer powerhouses on the men's side. So it's nice that we're seeing on the women's side these soccer nations that are on the men's side considered to be the best to actually be they've put the time in. It doesn't happen overnight. So they've done it for a decade or so, and now we're seeing kind of the fruits of that coming through at this World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it even with Sweden, too. Like, I know people hate it when the Europeans dominate, but as you kind of mentioned, like, these are the nations that are putting way more into football than other nations. And yeah, it's exciting to see, Jamaica go for a run. Absolutely. But their federation didn't even fund them. So, I mean, that was all them, and that was so admirable. But we're talking about serious football nations right now. Yeah. So I think it'll be Spain and England. Charmin, we're coming for you.
Should be a good one. All right, real quick. TFC, John Herdman.
I hate this.
I know. My only question was, what's a bigger job? What, in your opinion, real quick, because we don't have a minute anyway. What's a bigger job?
It has to be Canada. There's way more on the line. You're talking about a national team. That's way bigger than TFC.
Yeah, like, I mean, if it was a second division in the Championship League in England, I get it. But I just don't see how this is a big.
I think he needs to leave Canada in
If
general.
TFC comes to him and says, I'll triple your salary, which, say $1.5 million, which is way higher than almost anyone else in MLS, I'd be like, yeah, of course, you can take it. But if it's for the same money, I don't see why you wouldn't want to stick with Canada, who's going to host a World Cup. Other than,
I mean, listen, the drama around Canada
that's
football. I can understand him wanting to go, but to TFC, I think John Herdman's really talented. He's done what he's needed to do for Canada.
Yeah.
Get out, go somewhere else.
Sarah, stick around with us. You have a pick for the Messi game tonight for the Parleh as Sean joins us, and we have Barney's pick as well as myself. All right, welcome back to Bet99's The Parleh Show. Time to wrap it up with the Parleh. Tough one yesterday, Sean.
Hey.
And Sarah, tough one yesterday. We had a correct score, plus 650 out of the gate.
Yeah.
Justin Pooney went with a 1-0 win for Man U over Wolverhampton. And as you know,
that should not have been a 1-0 win. Doesn't got lucky.
Got lucky. We had some controversy in net with Andre Onana, and it should have been a penalty kick, many people felt. But nonetheless, he hit. And then we had the Astros and the Rangers. And I had the Rangers, and they won like 500-0, and the Astros couldn't get it done with Framber Valdez on the mound. Cost us plus 1,800.
That was you?
No,
Barney.
It was Barney.
Oh,
Barney.
no.
No, I wasn't here yesterday, so I did not contribute, but I'm ready to contribute today.
Okay. We'll go start with Barney. Phillies and Jays. We saw it earlier on the show. He's on the over.
Over 7.5.
He thinks that the lineup for the Philadelphia, I was going to say Eagles, Philadelphia Phillies are going to go deep, big time on Kikuchi. Sarah.
Has to be Inter Miami. Messi back in action tonight, of course. Inter Miami at plus money. That's free money, guys. That's free. Take it and go. This is within 90 minutes, remember, so it might catch you on that one. But I still think if they're at plus money anytime, you have to take it.
Plus 128. I was surprised by that number. You're like, I'm trying to find something of value. I go, Miami's already valued.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think because like the Union are one of the best teams in the in MLS, right? Like third in the East or something. I don't know.
How many Lionel Messi's do they have?
They have zero. They have zero Messi's.
No Messi's, no Alba Busquets. Enough for me to take them.
Yeah. I was thinking about taking the Rangers, but I'm actually going to take the Braves run line as my pick. Luis Severino on the mound for the Yankees, and wow, he's been terrible lately. I think like 36 runs in his last 29 innings or something like that. And did you know that the Braves offense is the best offense in baseball? So,
I did.
With like a 200-plus run differential. So I'm going to take the Braves run line. I think that's plus 110 to add to the parlay.
Is that the best? Is that the best like top three? Olsen, Acuna, and who am I missing? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I forget off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But it's so tough to say. But they're the best this year.
Yeah.
I mean, most home runs.
Albies? Is that the other guy?
Albies is in lineup. Yeah, he usually leads off.
All right.
Acuna.
I'm going with the north side of Chicago against the south side of Chicago, and I'm going with the north side, and that is the Chicago Cubs. Need the win to get in. Kyle Hendricks on the mound, minus 180. You put those all together, you will get a nice plus 1,165 on a $100 bet. Good luck with that.
Tomorrow.
Hopefully we can come through for you. But for now, thank you to Sarah Pereira, Sean McCormick, and Matthew Barnaby for joining us here on Bet99's The Parlay Show. We will see you tomorrow, everybody.